Okay, so hello to all our audience of Métal Zone radio show on Oxygène Radio. We are at Le Tremplin in Saint-Quentin-les-Mauges, France, and we've got the huge pleasure to be with Dave from Dog Eat Dog because the band is crossing Europe for the Free Radicals tour. We're going to talk of that, of course. So, first of all, thank you to take some time to answer some questions. How is going on this tour?
The tour is going very well. So, we have a new record, and of course, when you start on a tour, you don't know what's going to happen. And since the first show, we're 12 shows in. Every night has been full, and every night has been a very enthusiastic audience, and there's a lot of excitement, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback about the new music. So that's what we're here to do, promote our record we worked really hard on, and now it's seemingly like we did the job because everything's going well.
Cool. And thanks to be there for, as I say, the one and only show for the France. So you've been a long trip from Zurich where you're playing Switzerland yesterday. So thank you.
You're welcome.
In October of this year, you release your sixth and comeback album, Free Radicals, through Melville after 17 years of hiatus. Can you tell us more about the way you approach the writing and composition process of this album after such a long period of inactivity?
We like to all be in a room together when we write. We don't necessarily, everybody can come to the table like, hey, I have this idea or I have this riff, but we all sit in a room together. So we wrote the record in Prague, and we spent some weeks there throwing around ideas, and if something sticks and everybody's like, okay, we all like that, we start to add on to it, make it grow, talk about how to arrange it, what instruments do we want on this, what's our vision, and it takes time. When you're working on 14 different songs, we were hopping from song to song to song, so there were a lot of incomplete ideas, and then you're not sure, hey, how is this all going to work? But as you keep going, the ideas become more real, and then once you get into the studio, you get to put the studio magic on and say, okay, let's put a keyboard on that part, or let's put a double vocal on that, and then the songs really come alive. So it's a long process. This process from the first time we recorded a note was like years of working. So it's not just that it takes a long time to do it, it's that we're Americans that keep having to come back and forth to Europe to make a record, so that process takes a while.
Cool. Listen, of course, of this new album, I find it personally very varied. There is slow songs, more slow songs, there is a Dog Eat Dog fingerprint. There is last song. There is a woman. There is woman. Can you tell us more about?
So John was very adamant about having different kinds of tempos on this record. He really wanted a record that had a lot of hills and valleys to it, and we went along with that, and we said, okay, let's try something. So we knew it was going to be a little risky to put songs that were really slow or that were different than what fans of Dog Eat Dog would expect. But we need to grow as musicians. We need to try something different, and we want to appeal to a larger audience as well. So, a song like Bar Down or even Zamboni, might catch the ear of somebody who doesn't like heavy music, but is like, hey, I like that, though it's very melodic, or it means something to me. I feel something emotional. So those are risky songs, but I'm really glad that we pushed ourselves and went. The female vocal was a afterthought. We had originally recorded it, and then while we were listening back to the mixes, I felt like something's missing here. Something's missing. I didn't know, and then it was a suggestion to bring in a friend of ours on vocal, and when she put her vocal on, the whole song just went right through the roof. Like, now it means something, and I feel something. So that's the thing, is you should never limit yourself, and as you create art, whatever it is, it doesn't end necessarily. It could be the last thing you do, and that makes it the best thing you do. So you just got to keep an open mind till there's no way you can record anything left, and then that's what you get.
That's cool. So your music had always had an element of social commentary. How has your perspective on the issues you tackle evolved over the years, and do you think punk rock still plays a role in how those messages are received? How do you approach this on this album, Free Radicals?
we've always said we wanted to keep politics out of our music. So you call it social commentary, and that's okay, because we do have social commentary, but we're not trying to like tell anybody what to believe. We're not trying to get involved in anybody's political. We just want the message of our record is really be good to each other, strong friendships, strong family bond, and how that can help you through hard times. And we've lived through that, so we know. So we really write about what we really know. And then once in a while on a song like Never Give In, there's a little political commentary on it. There's a lot going on in our world right now. It's hard to avoid, but we didn't want to take sides either. We're just looking at it from a distance and saying, this is what's happening. And I think just the idea of Never Give In, it's not really political for us. It's, we're going through hard times, but we have each other, and we have to stay strong. And when you stay strong through the hard times, there's always a brighter day that follows. And that is the story of Dog Eat Dog. And that's what we want to let other people know. And people have come to us and said, hey, I felt really sad or down, but your music helped to bring me back. And that's the best compliment we can get.
I agree, and I understand. The album artwork for the Free Radicals was done by Marcos Cabrera. How did this collaboration come about, and what was the vision behind it, if there is a vision?
I had seen a flyer for a show that Marcos had done, and I was like, that artwork is incredible. Who did it? They introduced me and said, this is the guy who did this flyer. And I said to him years ago, you're going to be the guy who does our album. I showed his artwork to everyone in the band, and they all agreed, yeah, this guy's good. So when John and the band agreed on Free Radicals, it was his idea for the title. We decided, all right, how are we going to work Free Radicals into art? And then it was a very long process of going back and forth with the artist to figure out, what do you want to show? And we didn't really know. So it was like hard to communicate our idea, and he had to interpret it, so we would send him like medical pictures, and we would send him skateboard art and old 80s t-shirt art. So these are the colors we like. We want something that's coming out at you, and little details. And then after months of back and forth, what you see finally appeared, and we said, that's what we were looking for. But it wasn't an easy process, but I'm really proud of the artwork, because what I wanted was the energy that was on the record, and I feel we got that.
The result is here. The result is here. Starting out in New Jersey, how did the local scene there influence your initial sound?
We grew up in New Jersey, right outside of New York City, so we were very influenced by all of the New York hardcore bands that were happening at the time, but we were also influenced by Urban Dance Squad, Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Murphy's Law, Leeway. There were a lot of Cro-Mags. There were a lot of bands, and reggae and rap and like all kinds of stuff. So like we didn't just take our influence from New Jersey scene. We took our influence more from just what each band member was listening to at the time, and saying like, hey, we can put all this together. Like, okay, if you like rap, go with a rap vocal. I like heavy guitars, so I want to play something with heavy guitars. And it was very natural. It was never something we got into a room and said, hey, this is the sound we want. We just played, and it came out sounding like that. And that's the way it's always been. We get in a room and we could say, we want to play something that sounds as far away from Dog Eat Dog, but it always ends up sounding like Dog Eat Dog. So we can't get away from our own sound.
Came from the heart of each other. Being one of the pioneers of blending hardcore, punk and rap into what is now termed crossover nowadays, did you face any resistance or skepticism initially?
No, because I think when we emerged on the scene in like the early to mid 90s, crossover was what people liked at that point. So it was a lot of bands doing that. Rage Against the Machine were leading the pack, and then you had bands like Biohazard that were doing something kind of similar, and crossover was actually widely accepted, and we fit in very well. We didn't fit in well with some of the more harder bands, because we have the saxophone, and it kind of set us totally apart from everybody. Like, why do you have a saxophone? You don't sound like everybody. And that's both a good and bad thing, because it's a great thing because you have a distinctive sound, but you also don't have you don't fit in everywhere. And we knew that going in, and we were okay with it. We were like, we'll be the outsiders. But guess what? The outsiders can open for Bon Jovi, you know, where a lot of hardcore bands wouldn't be able to do that. So we were able to break ground, open for David Bowie. We would play with a lot of mainstream acts. And so our sound actually was limited in certain ways, but it was wider in others. So I don't regret the direction we went. And I think for us personally, we just want to enjoy what we do, and we don't want to make music just to fit into a box somewhere. We just do what we do, and if you like it, great, and if you don't, that's okay too.
Okay. The lineup of the band has seen various changes, but has been consistent since 2009. Can you tell us about that evolution? How did you manage to stick together, and how have the stability affected your creative process?
Every time you change a band member, your sound will change with it. It's inevitable. So in the early days, you know, during the writing of the Marlboro Kings album, we had a different lineup. And when Dan Nastasi left the band, our sound changed a bit from like a little bit more harder street edge to a little bit more pop punk, I would call it, or a little more melodic edge to it. And when Roger joined the band, you know, he comes with a completely different style of guitar. So now we have intricate guitar melodies running through the line, you know, and he brought so much more. So like every change brings a different element and a different sound. I love them all. It's still dog eat dog, even if it's a different guitar player. But, you know, it's really difficult to sustain in a band. Me and John are the original members. We're 33 years now. So it's very difficult to imagine every band member staying for 33 years. It just won't happen. But we feel right now that the lineup that we have is very stable. Now we've proven we can make records with this lineup, and good ones, and then there's no reason not to continue. We feel good. But like one of the great things is on this tour we brought Kings Never Die, who features Dan Nastasi, our original guitar player. So now we have him back up on stage every night with us playing the songs that he wrote with us, Who's the King and No Fronts, and it feels like old times again. So you got 3 original members from the Marlboro Kings record on this tour. So it's very special for us and special for the audience to be able to see that too.
That's fucking cool. That's right. In the days before the internet and social media, word of mouth and live performances were crucial. How did you manage to break through the noise back then?
Well, we had a record label that was pushing very hard. They knew they had something successful on their hands, and they put everything they had into it. So we were able to get on MTV. We were able to get on radio when they actually played music on the radio, like records and stuff. So we had a big push behind us. And if you're in a band and you have that support from your label, things are possible. There's a lot of bands that do not have the labels just don't have the power behind them. We were lucky. We caught the last wave of the 90s where people were still watching MTV and people were still listening to the radio, and there was no internet, so you had to go out and you had to go to the show and experience it for yourself, and then you tell your friends, go back to school. It was very word of mouth back then, and the word of mouth was really good. Now there's a lot more competition. There's 1,000 bands that release a record every day, and like it's you know, we're in a big ocean of bands again, you know, but we have years of experience and under our belt that gives us a little edge over some of the other bands. But you know, we still think we're just competing with everybody the way for your ear. We want people to hear our music, and you know, so does every other band. So it's not easy, but I'm glad we had the old days when, you know, we broke through and we had the support of not only like our label, but our fans were just so behind us, and they were giving us everything. Very loyal
fan bases. As you say, so you and John, you are the member, the founders, of the band. The band crossed 33 years in the rock and metal industry. What would be your advice to young starting bands, and is the ideal way for a band to promote its work nowadays?
That's a difficult question. But one thing I could say is when putting a band together, if the band members are friends, first, you can get through the hard times together and you can keep going. What happens is a lot of bands are like, hey, he's a good guitar player, he's a good drummer, but there's no loyalty to each other. And then it's easy to run away and say, I'm out or I'm done. You know, bands fall apart. With Dog Eat Dog, we were all friends first. So we like hanging out with each other. So my advice, first of all, when forming a band is, you know, make sure everybody's equally down, because a band is only as strong as, you know, its core. And we had a strong core from the beginning. So we kept that. But now in terms of promoting bands, it's like we're like having to relearn all that ourselves, and we're old dogs, and back then we had a label that would do it. We didn't have to think about that. But now as a band, we have to make our own videos. We've got to promote ourselves on social media more and more, and it was something we never did before. So we actually learned quite a bit in the lead up to this record about how to actually make videos ourselves. We made 4 videos with no help from anybody, and they came out great, and we were really excited, and it gives us the feel like, hey, we can keep doing this. Like, why not? Like, so what? The audience doesn't need $100,000 budget video to get the point across. And so that was something I think we learned, and how to use our social media better. I still would wish someone else would do it, but that's not a choice for us anymore. So we're jumping in head first, and each member of the band has taken some job and you know, figured out how to kind of capitalize on that and grab the attention of new fans, and you know, and so, you know, we're just going to keep doing that, and you know, we're going to come back in the spring and continue this tour. So we're just going to spend the winter using social media to keep the record alive, and maybe make another video or 2 just for fun, you know, because hey, if we can do it in a week or 2, why not?
It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Looking back at your childhood, in which musical environment did you grow up?
Musical environment. So I was really a heavy metal kid. So I grew up with Kiss, and then Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and Van Halen, Judas Priest, Rush, you know, all these kind of like typical AC/DC. That was really what made me feel passion for music initially. But of course, as I got older, I started listening to like progressive music, and then I got into like soundtrack music and electronic music and everything. Like, I'm just a very open-minded person, and I think that's the way this band has always been. Hey, we depending on your mood, there's something for everybody. And don't just stay in one little, you know, area. But heavy metal is in my blood. So musically, I think John will say the same. Like, we both kind of grew up in the same area of New Jersey. It was a very rock and roll time in the late 70s, early 80s, when music started coming into my life. So, whoa. Hit the lights. Hit the lights. Yeah, so speaking of which, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax started coming into my life, and I started realizing I like the heavier, and then I got into hardcore and hardcore punk, and like, you know, faster and crazier, DRI and SOD and that stuff. So I just went through a path, but so much passion, because I just love music so much, and I go into a record store and finding something and going home and listening to it. I still do that. I never grew out of it.
Big respect for that, big respect. So you are touring in Europe for the promotion of this last album, Free Radicals. What are the plans after this tour? You answered a little bit just before, but can you tell us?
Yeah, so we're going to take a break from each other first. I'm going to go on vacation, and I'm sure these guys will too. And then we're going to come up with a plan on how to sustain Free Radicals through the winter, because we're not going to tour in the winter, but we don't want the record to just fall flat and die. So we have to figure out a way to keep interest in it, and then come back in the spring, do part 2 of this tour. We didn't get to go to UK, we didn't go to Spain, we didn't go to Italy, we didn't go to a few Eastern European countries yet. So we need to schedule that and try to cover all of Europe by the end of the spring. Then we're going to move right into the summer festivals. And then it's the 35th anniversary of Marlboro King's album, so we might do some special shows where it's the whole Marlboro King's record on this one day, you know, not a tour, but special days, you know, so that people who really love that record get to hear it one more time.
Okay. So stay tuned. That's fucking cool. Okay, Dave, thank you very much. To conclude, did you have something to add? And some words for your French fans, because I know you've got in France also a loyal fan base, and we are in France today.
Well, I would just say thank you, of course, to you and to everybody watching and to all our fans in France. We have had some really good shows at Hellfest and the Motorculture Festival, and we feel like we're rebuilding our ground in France again, and I hope that that starts to keep building where we can come back and spend more time here, because we love the country, we love the people, and we're glad that this record got us back to France. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was Dave from Dog Eat Dog. Don't forget to buy the albums, to buy the merchandising, to go to the shows. It's fucking important nowadays for the band.
Yes.
Thank you. Take care of you. Have fun. Have a good show for this evening. And don't forget to laugh. It's important to laugh every day. Bye-bye.